I just want to clarify two things in that introduction video.
Yes.
You might welcome this opportunity to clarify.
Sure.
Let's start with the first statement. At the halfway mark of the first term of the president.
Sorry, I misspoke. It is the first half of the president's term.
Okay.
I think I did see you. I know.
I caught
Realizing
it.
mid-sentence what you just said. But the second thing, I think it was interesting what you said. That and it's good that the producers did take the initiative to point this out. You pointed out that nobody who supported tax reform lost. And we remember the many guests that we had heading into the elections. There was a lot of talk about the recto syndrome, and there was a lot of talk about, supportahan mo yan, nako, yari ka, delikado ka. But what do you think, what is different in what transpired with train? What is different with what happened when it comes to tax reform?
Well, in the first place, I think that the Filipino people support the tax reform for a number of reasons. Number one, it is a fair measure. In other words, the richer people paid the higher tax, and the poorer people got a tax break. In fact, in the Train 1, 99% of all wage earners got a tax break. The equivalent is about a 14-month pay. And the increase in taxes on fuel were very moderate. And actually, fuel taxes hits the richest 10% of the country because it's they that have the cars. So I think it was fair. Secondly, I think the people see that the money is being spent for their benefit. The Build, Build, Build program creates roads, bridges. We've spent also on human capital development, free education, and now we have a universal health care. And number three, I think they see that the money is not stolen, that whatever is spent goes into the project 100%. So I think for those three reasons, the Filipino people support tax reform, and they did not punish, by not voting for them, they did not punish those legislators who supported the tax reform. Number one there is Sonny Angara. I mean, he was the Ways and Means Committee, and he came out number 5. Totally different from the experience of Ralph Recto in the mid-2000s when he supported an increase in the VAT.
But people have said as well that the impact of excise taxes, for example, the impact of taxes on the lower 30% of the population was different, and people experience it in different ways. And in any case, it is counterintuitive. Diba? People are bracing themselves for higher prices, higher taxes, higher cost of living, and so on, higher commodities. Is there a risk in the next tranches that the experience will be different? I mean,
when we decided to do the tax reform, we decided to split up the measures, and we decided to do the most difficult ones first. And that's why we got the Train 1 going, because that affected prices of fuel, and that affected also the reduction in taxation for the wage earners. The next measures are not going to be as difficult because they are measures that are meant to modernize our tax system rather than raise revenues. So number one is we want to modernize our revenues from corporate income tax. We want to lower corporate income tax. On the other hand, we also want to modernize our incentive system. Our incentive system is outdated. It is not transparent. It is not targeted. It is not time-bound. And we think that we have to modernize our system. The next measure we are planning to do is simplify the tax measures for capital income. You know, our capital income tax measures is very anti-poor. If you have a deposit of pesos in a savings account, the withholding tax there is 20% if it is less than 5 years. If you have it over 5 years, there's no tax. Now, who can hold the deposits over 5 years? It's not the ordinary wage earner. So we want to make sure that we lower the withholding tax for the savings, but tax everything the same. We have a very complex system for other capital income taxes. We have 82 taxes applied to capital income. We want to bring it down to 40. You know, 40 is still too high, but I guess that's about where we can go. So that should be very popular. Go ahead.
Okay, I want to go back to the incentives because this is one of the more contentious issues in the tax reform package. No? The business groups are complaining that it might drive away investors, especially from the export processing zones, drive away jobs, and they say compared with the rest of Southeast Asia, I don't know if this is true, that it will make us less competitive. Is this true?
We have the most generous tax incentives already. In fact, our tax incentives are forever. Other countries, you have them for 5, 10, 15, 20 years. But ours are forever. We have companies that have been enjoying tax incentives for 40 years. And as far as I'm concerned, that's not tax incentives. That's corporate. That's corporate welfare. Okay. And another point I'd like to make is, you know, I talked to some businessmen and I said, look, I have a program where I will provide you 20 years no tax at all, local or national taxes. I will even subsidize each worker you hire. I'll give you 100,000 pesos. But you put it in Marawi. And then they say, oh no, we cannot do that. So what is the importance of tax incentives? It is more important to have peace and order, good infrastructure, good telecommunications. It's more those are more important. A very good workforce. That's more important than giving them a tax incentive. So let's realize what tax incentives are.